January 6th gets its own Twitter file. And what a file it is. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. The revelation of a relaxation of anti-conservative moderation at Twitter has led many more users to try their hand at investigative journalism. One such user dropped a thread 3 nights ago with embedded video and links to several documents and repositories. All this documentary and video evidence relates to the January 6th event. If this evidence is authentic, then it shows what I have long suspected, that the January 6th was a false flag pseudo-operation. Before I answer the obvious question, false flag what? And before I show you what's in that thread, I do want to shout out to the prime sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views. Link in the description. And be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of great merchandise there, especially this t-shirt that I have chosen for today, which reads, 1984 was not an instruction manual. One thing more. If you like what you are about to hear, you can like this video. You can also click the bell icon to get a notice every time I come up with a new one. In fact, do you see the new icon, the heart shape with the US dollar sign in it? That's the super thanks icon. If you really want to keep these videos coming, click on that and leave me a tip. Any currency will do, so long as it's legal tender. Now, first definition. A false flag pseudo-operation is an operation someone lays on to damage or appear to damage his own side so that he can blame the other side for it. The term does not connote an event that never occurred, but it does say the blame should lie elsewhere than with the obvious suspect or suspects. On January 6, 2021, President Donald J. Trump organized a program for a rally on the National Mall. As many as 100,000 people, enough to organize 10 infantry divisions had they all been trained soldiers, attended that rally. Donald Trump was scheduled to speak at 11 o'clock a.m. Washington time, but he was delayed and did not begin speaking until 11:40 a.m. More to the point, Trump himself urged people, if they wanted to support him, to do so peacefully. He repeatedly asked his followers to refrain from violence. Now, as most people know, about 200 people crossed a line that they shouldn't have crossed. Enough, though in fact, someone had removed barriers and area closed signs that everyone would have respected. What happened in that building is a matter of active controversy, and I will treat anything anyone says about it without hard evidence as conjecture. The next day, Trump condemned what he called violence, lawlessness, and mayhem that allegedly took place that day. I have links in the description to 11 of his last several tweets on an account he still hasn't started to use again, even though Elon Musk reinstated it. Judge for yourselves whether he was urging his people to take the place over. It didn't look like that way to me. And let's face it, with 100,000 people to work with, if he had wanted the Capitol, he'd still have it. And now we come to the thread. The user Dom Luker, who also calls himself Breaker of Narratives, dropped a thread of 26 tweets. I have links in the description to the even numbers. According to the thread, 20 agents of the FBI and the ATF, that's alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, for anyone out there who doesn't know, were in that crowd and among the 200 who allegedly made trouble that day. Dom Luker has many of their reports in Dropbox accounts and even at the site Court Listener. Here's a key point someone made. Quote, 90 to 95% of these are one-off cases. Then you have 5%, maybe, of these militia groups that were more closely organized But there was no grand scheme with Roger Stone and Alex Jones and all those people to storm the Capitol and take hostages. Close quote. And emphasis mine. Now, what about the 11th tweet? The one that says, if this looks like an insurrection to you, I'd ask you to research, etc., etc. Well, Dom Luker is talking about the revolt of the Janatha Vinukti Paramuna, or JVP, in Sri Lanka from 1987 to 89. Wikipedia, and I have a link to their article in the description, describes it as a low-intensity conflict that nevertheless featured political assassination and attacks on military and civilian targets. Dom Luker makes the point that the January 6th event featured nothing on that level. This thread features links to document drafts and embedded photos and videos that tell a story contrary to official narrative. The information suggests that the January 6th event began when Capitol Police admitted members of Antifa and/or Black Lives Matter. A total of 200 people crossed boundaries they shouldn't have crossed. The FBI had hoped for a larger event, and when they didn't get one, they proceeded to exaggerate. And the FBI were not the only ones. But before I tell you who else, I want to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you through the economic storms to come. That sponsor is oursilverlines.com. Do you feel like you're working harder for your money just to get by? You are not alone. The fluctuating economy, employment issues, and unexpected changes in life have left many families struggling over the last few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Lines helps by connecting you with thousands of members who are learning the secrets to creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. Now, whether you just want to collect rare and unique coins or take advantage of the business opportunities that company provides, either way, they can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit oursilverlines.com to learn how you can build a legacy for your future. And now, the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attacks, their word, not mine, deliberately distorted President Trump's words. Worse than that is this booby prize example. Dom Luker tells us, and again I quote, Trump actually vanished before his voters began walking toward the Capitol. He was escorted by his Secret Service because they claimed the reports that indicated he was in danger. The media continued to paint a false picture of Trump. But why? Unquote, Dom Luker. Recall that a witness actually said that Trump tried to commandeer his own limousine, which was impossible. No passenger behind a partition could ever interfere with the driver. In short, that witness committed perjury, and committee members all but suborned it. But more than that, the FBI, says Luker, had footage of the January 6th event. So Luker presents footage that shows not a hint of the out-of-control riot that the FBI said happened. The question Dom Luker does not answer is, who fired the tear gas on January 6th? Tear gas did billow. Several witnesses told me that. Not all the footage is flattering, however. We see the man with the painted face, dressed in what looks like furs and a hunting trophy. Luker said this man was not a provocateur. And he even says that some of the footage appears to show Ashley Babbitt striking the officer who then shot and killed her. If that's true, that means the officer might be guilty of excessive use of force, but not first-degree murder. Reaction is overwhelmingly positive. Two users cited the example of Joseph Goebbels to draw a parallel to the behavior of the FBI. You remember what Goebbels said, that if you tell a big enough lie and say it often enough, people will believe it because the truth will be too fantastic or horrible to contemplate. Some negative reactions did exist, although the negatives didn't offer much in the way of contrary evidence. I'm sorry, but the word garbage doesn't tell me enough. That's literally all someone had to say. And of course, that wasn't much. Next, we have a tweet from a user who offered 2 photographs to show why Americans question the reported results of the election of 2020. You see a big Trump rally. And what's this? Just a bunch of folding chairs on the lawn. Each chair marked with a white circle on the grass, 6 feet in diameter, which must have been the social distance boundary or some such thing. And the point is, those chairs are empty. Now, if 81 million people did vote for Joe Biden, where were they during the campaign? Another user pointed out that the FBI didn't stick by the insurrection narrative to characterize the January 6th event. I have 2 tweets, and the second tweet contains a reply to it. And now my analysis. This thread brings us no closer to solving the riddle of the election of 2020. That riddle is, if Joe Biden won the popular vote 81 million to 75 million, and why did so few people show up to his campaign events? Not only were those events very poorly attended, but Biden staged many fewer of them. The thread also has the infamous suitcase footage from the State Farm Arena in Atlanta. An actual assistant registrar questioned the professionalism of the Atlanta officer's election. She told me that straight out when I went to train as an officer of election myself. But sadly, at least one commentator, Eric Woods Erickson, has actually explained that away. Although I think he was too quick to accept official explanation. That registrar that I told you about did not. But this thread does go to show that the government tried to provoke people into reacting more as violently as did the JVP in Sri Lanka in 1987. When this did not happen, the government, with 7 members of the House of Representatives to aid and abet them, tried to make the event much larger than it was. This thread tells how large or how small the event really was. Did the FBI lay on a dramatic raid on Trump's home in Florida after the second impeachment failed? Can we now explain why Biden would make such a divisive speech with a frightening backdrop? Perhaps. I'll tell you this, the evidence does not flatter the government. And furthermore, the same left that made lurid movies depicting American government as tyrannical is now behaving exactly like the villains in those movies. Links in the description of the article to 11 of Trump's last tweets, to the thread, to the Wikipedia article about that business in Sri Lanka, to all the tweets in reaction, to my Declarations of Truth Twitter account, and to Conservative News and Views. I've also left links to the awesome CNAV Store and to oursilverlines.com. As I also mentioned, you know already about how to like a video, turn on notifications, and leave a tip. On the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link to my channel and links to a new January 6th playlist, the Mar-a-Lago playlist, and an article about what I think of the FBI, that the FBI has become. This is Terry A. Hurlbut delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.